Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Today, we saw a minor pullback in Bitcoin, and then we saw a pullback exaggerated by Bitcoin miners. And so, naturally, the question that many investors ask during these times is, have we reached the top? Is it time to sell? What should we be doing? And so, in order to answer this question, we're going to look at some data points that suggest where we are in the Bitcoin cycle. And without further ado, let's get started. Assalamu alaikum, Rashad. Assalamu alaikum, everyone who has joined us. So, this is not financial advice. Be sure to do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Bitcoin, as I mentioned, was down today. I think it peaked at 52.5 and then it went down to 51.5 as of taking the screenshot. Uh, as I mentioned, the Bitcoin miners really saw a pullback. I mean, the worst was Mawson, which absolutely cratered. And you heard me on this channel talk about these low priced per hash, but very high risk miners. And I said, these are, not meant to be a substantial part of your portfolio, very small part of your portfolio. And they go down a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these miners at the bottom of the list go up, 20, 30% in a single day as well. So when they do go up, it's a good idea to take some profits. Alhamdulillah, we took profits this morning. We kind of timed it perfectly. We took profits last Friday. We took profits on Monday. We're always taking profits. And alhamdulillah, we actually reallocated some of those profits to Tesla, which saw a nice little pop today. So all good there. You'll never go broke taking profits. That's what you need to always remember. So as it relates to, what are the indicators telling us in terms of money flow and where the price of Bitcoin could go? It seems that the pace of net inflows into the newly established Bitcoin ETFs has been increasing. We've reached record levels lately in terms of net inflows. That's likely due to a subsiding of selling of GBTC. But we saw in aggregate 2 billion in net inflows go into the newly approved Bitcoin ETFs, which is truly astonishing. And to put this into perspective, the inflows into these ETFs is 10 times the amount of Bitcoin mined. So you can see that orange bar at the bottom, that's the Bitcoins that are being sold by miners. And then the green bars are the net inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs. And so it doesn't really take Ibn Khaldun to know that when you have this type of imbalance in supply and demand, the price is bound to go up in a big way. Sooner or later, we're going to have a lift off even more than what we've already experienced. Not only that, but you see the allocation of crypto in just normal investors' portfolios becoming more and more normalized. So even Fidelity, which has a $1.5 trillion assets under management, it is allocating a 1% allocation to cryptocurrencies in its all-in-one conservative ETF. So when you have the normalization of cryptocurrency allocations, this is different from anything that we've had in the past as it relates to cryptocurrencies in general and Bitcoin in particular. We've never really been in a time where cryptocurrency has been normalized to the extent that the Bitcoin ETFs have allowed them to become normalized. And gold is being dumped for Bitcoin. Now, not all the gold that is being sold is flowing into Bitcoin. Some of it is just flowing into equities as investors move from a risk off to a risk on posture in anticipation of interest rate cuts. However, I think it's reasonable to surmise that a good portion of the selling in gold ETFs is flowing to Bitcoin, and you can see the divergence in directions between the uh, inflows in Bitcoin ETFs and the outflows out of gold ETFs. And we've said for a long time that we view Bitcoin as really digital gold. This is its purpose. It's not meant as a currency, it's not meant as a full replacement of money, but it can serve as a store of value. Previously, for millennia, gold occupied this position. And if you recall, I mentioned that Bitcoin finally entered the top 10 list of most valuable assets. And at the top of that list was gold. And so I think that you're going to see a lot of appreciation in Bitcoin as a result of flows of money out of gold into Bitcoin. And, one can only imagine how far this takes Bitcoin. Since the beginning of the year, gold ETFs have lost close to 2.5 billion. So recall in the last 4 days, there's been 2 billion in net inflows into the new Bitcoin ETFs, whereas gold has lost 2.5 billion. Additionally, you have the Bitcoin halving, which is fast approaching, 2 months to be more specific. 2 months from now, we'll have the halving, and that's when the rewards for each block in the Bitcoin network are cut in half. So you have all this demand piling up, the ETFs, the normalization of cryptocurrencies in just average investor portfolios. Um, and to add to that, you have the supply being cut in half, the daily supply being mined being cut in half. And I have to believe that it's not only going to be cut in half, but the miners that are mining these Bitcoins, and when the price of Bitcoin is falling, they're quick to sell their Bitcoin, whatever they mine. When the price is going up, these miners that are mining less Bitcoin are going to want to hold on to that Bitcoin for as long as they can, since the price is always going up. So not only will the miners mine less, but they'll also be more stingy with what they mine. So this is going to really uh, lay the foundations for, I think, uh, a steep appreciation in price. Something that people perhaps is not on their radar, but a lot of advisors are prevented from advertising new ETFs to their clients until 90 days after those ETFs start trading. And this is to minimize the risk of that new ETF failing. So I think a lot of advisors, I mean, we're still within that 90-day period after the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs. So a lot of advisors, I think, have been holding back on presenting Bitcoin ETFs to their clients. And once that 90 days is over, I think you're going to see a pickup in demand even further for these Bitcoin ETFs as advisors have more freedom to promote them. And then finally, if we sort of zoom out and look at the overall picture, the stock to flow model, which has been extremely reliable with regards to Bitcoin, and it actually was formulated based on the price history of gold. So there's a lot of data to support this. The stock to flow model, and right now, if you look at that colored line, it's showing you the price of Bitcoin on a logarithmic scale. And the red line is what the model suggests, the stock to flow model suggests the price should be. You can see that right now we're exactly where the model suggests we should be. And what does this model suggest? When does this model suggest we will reach 100K? It suggests we will reach that point in September of this year. So the most reliable model that we have suggests that we're still half of where we will be in September of this year. So for all these reasons, I will posit to you that we are not at the top. There are still gains to be had. That said, as I always say, it never hurts to take profits and try to um, allocate based on what has done well recently, and shift that to perhaps things that have lagged in your portfolio, and then do the same when those laggers end up picking up and the previous assets end up lagging behind, and so on. I think that will generate even more alpha for you in your portfolios, as inshallah PIF members have been able to experience in the last week following our portfolios. So with that, let's take some questions. And now that, and I will highlight the, I will highlight some comments if you'd like. So Mawson is down 24% today. Yep, that's what you get when you try and go for outsized returns. You're gonna have outsized volatility whenever you have that target. So proceed with caution. Never invest anything that you can't afford to lose, and never make an investment in. First of all, know what you're investing in, and when you have these risky investments, you have to make them very small portion of your portfolio. IRS is reporting earnings. We'll have a report on that for PIF members tomorrow. Indeed, what a wild crypto ride. Wilson, nice to see you again. Wa alaikum salam. I think ETH upgrade will kill Solana. No, I don't think it will. I think the biggest catalyst for ETH actually is the potential for an ETF. Yeah, that's looking more and more plausible with time. So that's something that I could see as a catalyst for Ethereum. However, I think if you look at the metrics for usage, for utility, I think Solana is still in the lead. And when it becomes not in the lead anymore, or we start identifying a trend where utility is dropping off and perhaps something else is gaining on Solana, then we'll make the necessary adjustments, inshallah. Yeah, so Eni and Mawson are down much more than others because when they're riskier and their upside potential is higher. So with the return comes risk. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. And until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.